Hey, everybody. It is that time. It is that time for the Hurricane Ian pregame. Every year I do kind of a pregame on these things, and this one has been one weird bird, to say the least. But what we know right now, what we know for sure, is we're going to have a storm that is very potentially over 400 miles wide. We're going to have a storm that is definitely going to approach Florida, and it is definitely going to put a lot of weather and a lot of wind inside Florida. Where that goes, that's left to be known, left to be said. But I agree with a lot of the models I'm seeing, and it looks to me like it's going to be the west coast of Florida. I'm reminded that for everybody, though, that nobody thought that that Michael was going to come exactly like it was. They didn't think it was going to intensify as it was. They didn't think a lot of things about it were true. And so I just remind everybody that no matter what you think, we've never been here before, just right in this spot. So like my phone's been ringing off the wall. It's been ringing off the wall all weekend. Everybody, where's it going? Where's it going? Where's it going? And I don't know the answer to that. I just know that for sure that it's coming. And my guess is that this has the potential to be a pretty awesome storm. And when I say the word awesome, I mean not awesome like good. I mean it's awesome like awesome in its power. And so I want to just start by saying that for anybody that finds any offense to this conversation, sometimes people find offense to the Claims Tribe and what we do and how we talk about things and we plan for these and we talk among ourselves and we kind of lean in on each other. And some of it feels like banter wishing for, death and decimation. And nothing could be farther from the truth. You know that, and I know that, and most everybody that's listening to this knows that, our first cause is to pray urgently for everybody that's going to be affected by this storm, that no life and limb would be hurt, that no PTSD was made, that no damage mentally was made. Let's face it, none of us want one more kid to feel the scarce thing, the scary feelings that come from a storm. But at the same time, you and I, all of us in the Claims Tribe, we are part of restoring that, changing that, bringing that back, making it better. And for that, I am so glad to charge the storm with you. I mean, it is the very reason I do what I do. Is it just feels so good to be able to make a living and at the same time do such good. And I think we all do that. Now, I just want to talk to you about a few things. First thing I want to talk to you about was the fact that we don't know what we don't know. We don't know how much flooding we're going to have. We don't know how the roads are going to be. We don't know how the resources are going to be. We don't know how the housing is going to be. We don't know how the labor is going to be. We don't know a bunch of things about what's going to happen, okay? And this is the very beginning. As this storm hits, it is the beginning of what I call the fog of the cat. So for about the first 90 to 100 days, whatever you think, you're wrong. Whatever you think is going to work perfectly probably isn't. Whatever supplies were supposed to show up at a time didn't. Whatever generator was supposed to show up probably won't. Whatever fuel was supposed to be there won't. Whatever labor was supposed to show up won't. Whatever housing was supposed to be there won't. And so many other things. Keep in mind the fog of the cat, the frustration of the cat is why, typically speaking, the drug dealer is the most profitable right after a storm. Because literally he's passing out sanity, as some people think, to get over this fog of the cat. But there's no reason at all for us to not recognize that that's where we are. And to that end, I would tell you something that our field guys do at Right Loss, Claim Right Inc. When we deploy field staff, and we keep field staff deployed pretty much all year long. We have a thing that we do that we call it shelf life. And that is that we have the cognitive ability to look at the person, understand where they are, talk to them, get to know them. That's Honey. She's going to be here. She loves being on camera. And then we get to figure out over time, though, what works out so well is we get to figure out over time what their shelf life is. And so what we do is, say that's 2 weeks. We send them out for 2 weeks, then we send them home for 3 or 4 days so that they can kind of retool, take care of some of their creature comforts, see their family, kind of recharge and come right back at it, and they're fine. If you don't do that, if you just put somebody in the field and you grind them out for a month or two at a time, then what you find is they start falling apart really badly. And I just encourage all of you when you're doing this to recognize that shelf life is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. If you ever have somebody who doesn't have a shelf life, they have no connection with the world. So be afraid of those people. I want to talk to you about regulation. You know, I get the same conversation over and over again every time we have a storm, every single time. And usually it's something about, what are the rules on drying out a structure? Well, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a regulator. But every time we do this storm thing, we have this problem that people come in and they, because they can't legally demolish something or treat mold, they come in and just dry a building out without doing the first R of remediation, which is removal. They usually give the insured the undue feeling that things are going to be okay, that it's dry and so now it's all fixed. Now, you know it's not. And the problem is the carrier is going to follow in behind those folks. And when they follow in behind those folks, they're going to do one thing. They're going to say, oh, well, we got our $4,500 drying bill here. All the mitigation is taken care of, and they didn't have to pull any drywall out. And you know that Miss Smith's house is a mold bomb now, and it's a huge mess, and it's going to probably go through a whole protracted long procedure that it didn't need to go through just because one person was coming here to grab a little bit of money and try to stay out of the regulatory trick bag. I just encourage you guys not to do that, and I encourage you to talk to your clients out there about not buying into that. The next thing I was going to talk to you about is housing. And kind of housing and the other things I'm talking about here are kind of like just key because they all work together, okay? You basically have a labor burden problem. We did a white paper during Hurricane Michael, after Hurricane Michael. And basically during the first 150 days after Michael, basically you had construction cost in Panama City, for example, was about 1.4 times more expensive than it would have been if it hadn't had the storm. And as you moved east to the other communities east served, it went up to almost twice as much as it would normally be. This is why routinely we saw roofs that were $40,000 and $50,000 turn into $80,000 roofs, things like that, because it literally costs more because everything costs more. That's labor cost. It's not going to be represented very well in Xactimate. It's not going to be represented very well in program contracting numbers. It has to be something that you think about. You have to understand it. So your labor burden includes that drive time. It includes the cost of housing. It includes the cost of delivery. It includes all those things that are over and above what you would normally have to do for the same thing. Keep in mind, let's say that it takes you, just for instance, okay? Let's say that it takes you an hour and a half to drive to the job every day. So that's 3 hours every day that's taken out of a day out of your day's wages. So basically you're cutting that 3 hours a day out of normal work. So that means the period of construction is going to increase. It also means that you have to pay that guy to drive because otherwise he's not going to take your job. So pound for pound, he becomes more expensive. And that's what we do in this CAT. And you have to understand that that's where we are and that's what's going to happen here. The other thing that you're going to have to remember is that because you have to pay everybody, you got to get paid. And you need to be not bashful about this at all. I am I will get a call sometime in the next 3 weeks from somebody who's owed a couple of $100,000 who's about to shut down because he can't get any money collected. And we're going to find out that he didn't get deposits from anybody. We're going to find out that he had no good contracts. We're going to find out that he hadn't consulted with a Florida attorney to be able to protect his interest. And in some cases, we're going to find that he did a crappy job writing estimates, and he basically is running himself out of business. My point is simply this: you've got to find a way to collect the money. You've got to find a way to charge appropriately for the loss. You've got to be able to understand that in the fog of the cat, everything changes. And last but not least, I'm going to remind you all of one thing that I know all too well. We do not recognize that in our industry, we are like trauma catchment devices. And trauma is like filling up a bottle. It fills up and up and up until it flows over. And when we do these storms and we deal with all this pain, we deal with being away from family, we deal with being away from kids, deal with the tragedy of other folks that are just falling apart because they're in the middle of an insurance claim. And it creates trauma. And I would bet you that of all the people I'm talking to here, I'll bet you 90+% of you in the back of your head know that the long term in this game of insurance, it brings trauma to everybody on all sides of the game. The claims tribe is not immune to these kind of just pains. And for this reason, I say, if we are not looking after each other right now at this time, while this hurricane is coming in, then we should not be in the game. Because I am my brother's keeper in this regard. Because it really does take all of us doing the good work that we do to move the chains for the insured. Some of us very aggressively protect the insured. Some of us quietly protect the insured. But rest assured, the entire industry is here to protect the insured. And I could not be more honored than to stand with you. I spend most of my life doing umpire work, appraisal, and expert work. I also founded and own the largest estimation firm in North America. If you need help with estimates, let us know. If you need help with anything else, let us know. But this isn't about any of that. There's plenty enough for everybody to go around when we have these storms, for sure. Just take care of you. And guys, thank you.